The fifth grade Spanish class of JSIS worked in a migrant worker sector. Leon, Todd, and Gabe. Migrant workers are people from all over the world, except the U.S., who come here to the United States of America to look for work. Most migrant workers come to the U.S. illegally, but some are documented. Migrant workers are always moving jobs. They move with the seasons. For example, they might go to the cherry farm, then, when it's melon season, they would move to a melon farm. Migrant workers are usually paid way less than U.S. citizens, since they're afraid if they complain to their employers, the employers will report them. This is called exploitation. Many migrant workers are exploited.
Can you talk a little bit about what's a migrant worker so they understand?
Yeah. A migrant worker is a person who comes and works for, like, moves around. Like if there's work in California, they go to California to work, and then if it's if there's apples up here to pick, they come up here to work for that, and then if it's then say it's orange season in Florida, they go all the way to Florida to pick oranges there.
And what happens to their kids?
Their kids don't get to make very many friends because they're moving around. Like, they get to stay in one school for like 2 months, maybe 1 month, and then they move on to different schools. And that, I think that might affect their education because in different schools they're studying different things and they may get behind.
Los trabajadores migrantes, o the migrant workers en inglés, son personas que son muy importantes en la cultura de los Estados Unidos.
These are migrant workers, people from other countries. They came to find money, work, or to be with family. Most have little or no money. They are being exploited because if they are undocumented, the employers pay them less than minimum wage. This is a social justice issue and needs to be addressed. That is why my class is learning and spreading awareness about the migrant workers and their needs. Have you ever seen or heard how many people get deported when they try to come to America, or how many people work in fields picking cotton, strawberries, apples, and lots of other things? Most of them aren't American. They're usually Mexican or Chinese. These people are migrant workers that work really hard to get jobs every day so that they have money for food, shelter, and families.
Why socks? Migrant workers live in very harsh conditions, but when there are clothes drives for them, people usually don't think of donating socks.
Our project assesses a real need because the migrant workers work all day, so their socks get worn out quickly. Also, their feet might get very cold up in Washington, and they are from warm climates, so they are not prepared to work in the cold.
Para los trabajadores inmigrantes, porque ellos están en el suelo todo el día. Y muchas personas no donan calcetines porque no piensan que es un grande problema. No solo estamos teniendo los niños donar calcetines, estamos enseñando a los niños que es un problema grande.
We've been going around the school from classroom to classroom, teaching them about the migrant workers and asking for their help. It's a really cool project. Also, it's sort of two projects together because we're not just collecting socks from migrant workers, but we're also teaching other people about them and their needs.
This project has raised awareness of the migrant workers because a group of students went around telling all the other classes about how migrant workers get exploited and why we think donating socks to the workers is important. Migrant workers are people who come from other countries to come here for work. Like if it's, they move around, and if it's, say it's strawberry season in California, they go to California, work there, and then it's apple season up here in Washington, and then they go, and then they come up here and work to pick apples in Washington, and they get exploited, which means they don't, they're taken advantage of, and they don't get paid very much money, and they have to think about what they spend their money on very carefully because they can only afford necessities like food, shelter, some clothes, and we're trying to help them out by donating some socks. The socks have to be new.
¿Necesita calcetines para ellos? ¿Por qué?
Porque ellos no tienen mucho dinero, trabajan mucho y lo que tienen más es ropa y cosas.
Y la verdad necesitamos ayudarlos porque si no hay niños allá.
They like work in the fields and they travel from field to field trying to, like during the seasons there's different foods they're harvesting, and so they move to harvest that food, and it's very rough in the fields because they're standing up all day, so they need like socks.
Nosotros, los estudiantes, podríamos decidir exactamente qué hicimos, como pósters, obras de teatro o anuncios en el intercom.
I really like doing this project. I made a bilingual poster about the migrant workers and how they need socks. It was really fun. I think that the plays are pretty funny, but will get everyone interested.
Yeah, we're doing a play about the migrant workers. It's really fun.
Mom, what if we do get caught? We'll go to prison or get deported.
¿Y la obra que ustedes están haciendo de qué va?
César Chávez.
César Chávez.
Es cuando está caminando y debe de tener más personas.
Yo estoy contigo, César Chávez.
¡Yo también!
Sí se puede, sí se puede.
Yo estoy haciendo una pequeña obra. La obra es sobre inmigrantes. Las otras personas están haciendo posters. La obra es en español. Yo pienso que esto es el difícil parte.
We got to choose how to tell the story. And I'm going to tell you about my past as a migrant worker. That was the day Mother told us we were leaving for America. I remember the long train ride to the border. We were constantly fighting. After that, Julie and I worked in the fields every day. We ended up being able to pay for big discounts. We weren't rich, but we were happy.
Necesitaditos para los trabajadores inmigrantes. Necesita derechos para los trabajadores inmigrantes. Señor, ¿qué quieren? ¿Quieren ricos?
No. Tienen derechos para los trabajadores inmigrantes.
Ahora. No.
Si no, vamos a protestar.
Está bien. Pueden protestar. Vamos a ver quién gana.
Me gustaría ir también, pero ¿qué vas a hacer ahí?
Vamos a trabajar en el campo.
A play about Cesar Chavez, and I'm making a sign for a prop in where they march to I think it's Sacramento.
Los necesitan para el trabajo duro que hacen. Was that we got to work in groups. I liked it because you get to hear other people's opinions.
We're also reading a book called Crossing the Wire. It's about a boy whose best friend is crossing the border to America from Mexico. So he decides to go a day later, but not with his friend. He is doing this to get money for his family. So he's going to work in the field and send money back home to his family.
Reading the book helps me understand more about our project.
Yo encontré muy interesante cuando la mamá de Thalia vino al fin
puede decir todas las preguntas que tenía.
A mí me gustó mucho cuando vino el maestro Barry, nos habló mucho acerca de los inmigrantes. Fue muy interesante, porque sabemos cómo se sentían los inmigrantes cuando no podían pasar la frontera de Estados Unidos. Se sentían muy tristes porque tenían familiares en Estados Unidos, pero no podían verlos.
This service was age appropriate and benefiting our education. One reason it does that is because it tells us that we need to help people that are more unfortunate than ourselves. Another reason is that we need to have more laws that make migrant workers happier and so they can have money and have a house and all the other stuff that they need.
Before the project, I didn't really know much about the migrant workers and the exploiting and the crossing illegally, but now you could probably ask me any question and I would answer it.
Antes que ese proyecto, yo no sabía nada sobre los trabajadores migrantes. Este me educó sobre los problemas de ellos.
This project has really let me think of how other people feel.